All right. So hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to our Sage 100 Office Hour. I am Katie Geyer, your Customer Success Manager here at BrainSell and your host for today. I'm joined here by Sage 100 engineer and consultant, Holly Yanega, who will show you some great stuff in Sage 100 and answer all your questions. So just some quick housekeeping. If you have a question during the hour, please click the hand in the top right corner and Karsten will unmute you to ask so that you can ask your question. You can also use the question box to submit any questions during the hour. So here's a little agenda of what will be covered today: reporter, dashboards, explorer views, and then we'll end with a little additional Q&A. So let's just jump into it with Holly. And as a reminder, feel free to ask questions as you think of them by raising your hand, and Karsten will unmute you or drop the questions in the question box. So we hope to make this as interactive as possible. All right.
All right, I am showing my page screen. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Good, good. Okay, thank you. Oops. All right, so welcome to our little office hours today. Today we're going to be covering the business insights tasks that are available in Sage 100. These tasks have been here for several versions. I've been doing Sage 100 since 2005. And they came out a few years after that. I still find that people don't always know that this tool is there. So we thought we'd do an office hours to share the tool and give people some more information and see if it is a tool that would be useful to them. There are 3 components to Business Insights module: the dashboard, the reporter, and explorer. I'm going to start with dashboard and go through that briefly, and then I'll probably even more briefly go through a reporter, and we're going to spend the bulk of the time on the explorer because I think that's a tool that's most useful and most neglected. So when you set up a dashboard, the dashboard is a tool that allows you to have basically a page that you can see when you log in with some summary information that you want right at your fingertips. So it's configurable to a certain extent. There are some options that you can select and select which views you want to show in your dashboard options. So when I go into the dashboard options, this comes up like this. I can say what my company name is. I can assign my company logo to that as well. Some options on how many, when I have a pie chart, how many segments do I want, how many detail lines in my table for those reports that have tables. And those, I think I have them, oh no, I don't have them set to max. You can fool around with those. This is the max number of segments in a pie chart though. On the additional tab, some options for prompting. How often do you want to prompt for update? Always means every time I open this page, it's going to prompt me to update the data that's in there. And I recommend that because you want to see the most current information. So I like to, it's just a quick prompt. You can turn on an automatic update that runs certain number of hours between executions. This only runs when you have Sage 100 open. So when you close it for the day, that shuts off for the day. So that's an option as well. So once I hit accept there, oops, it asks me right now, sorry, I went into the dashboard wizard. The wizard then allows me to set up the dashboard and what I want to see on my dashboard. These dashboards are configured by the user. You can copy from one to another. So if you set one up, I can check, I can see who the users are, or I can select a user that's already been set up, for example, myself. I'll set myself up here. I'm allowing myself to modify the dashboard page. If you have users you'd like to push a page to and don't let them modify it, you just uncheck that. And then also you can say, we don't want to prompt this user for dashboard updates if that's an option you'd like to have. Now here, this is a little harder to show, but basically we have all of these different reports of an AP analysis, cash requirements, payables aging. On the left here, these are all the options that you have, all the reports that you can show in your dashboard. It tells you what size is it. It's going to be a full size or half size. and then if it has options, and those are the pie chart options that we looked at. I've selected a few on the right here, and mine are all half size. A sales and income statement, some top customers, my aging and balance sheet. Maybe I want some payables on there. So for example, maybe I want my, do I have a payables down here? Accounts payable analysis, I'll put there. You can rearrange it, hide, show, etc. I can move that up, move that down. Because this is full page, I'm going to put this at the bottom. These half pages will come out with one on the left, one on the right. So you get a little bit more when you put the half pages on. I'll hit next to go through the wizard and finish. It's asking me if I want to update my data, and I say yes. And once I do that, it will pop up in a separate page here, and you will see all my data. So I'm going to hide my menu over here just a little so I can see more here. But there's my sales summary, sales for the date, period to date, year to date. I can launch from here directly into some of these reports for more information. A customer sales analysis report, for example, that launches in and drills into this particular report. Sorry, it takes a second. And I saw it flash there, so there it is. So this is the customer sales analysis report. This is the report directly off of your menu, off of your reports menu. So these are just basically links to those. On the right, I have an income statement set, the income statement summary, period date, year to date, and I can go into income statement details, budgets, profitability ratios, all of those. Sorry. Just by drilling into one of these in income statement details, for example, shows this a little bit more details with my profit, gross profit, operating expense, etc. I can go back to my original page. This is what the graphs look like. Here are my top customers. I can drill in, or I can see when I hover over there, it tells me which customer it is. On the right, my aging. I have most of this demo data is overdue because I don't actually keep it up to date. I have a customer sales analysis report that I can drill in from here. I can drill into a specific customer, I believe. Yeah, oops. I clicked on the customer and it shows me a customer inquiry for that customer if I want to look at that customer directly, or I can click here to do the whole customer sales analysis report again. I've got balance sheet summary, profitability ratios, and here's my AP analysis, which includes down here my total current period, prior period, rolling, and my total payables here by date. So that's the example of the ones that I've added. So what I recommend is that you go into this maintenance wizard, you pick which particular panels that you think might be helpful, and then you put them on here to see. There's really no other way to preview them other than doing that to pick different ones. There's a shortcut here to modify this page. If you have the security, the checkbox that says allow this user to modify it, it opens the wizard from here and just takes you into your page. It shows you everything that's there, and then you can modify it as needed. All right, if anytime you come in here and there's no dashboard showing, you just click on display dashboard. Since I have it set to always prompt me, every time I click on that, it's going to ask me if I want to refresh, and I can say yes, or I could say no because I just refreshed it a minute ago, and then that'll open my dashboard. All right. That is the dashboard. Can be a nice little shortcut for people to have information at their fingertips. The next area I'm going to go into is the reporter. So the reporter is basically a custom report writer, but it does have limitations. So this is, you're configuring a report and it's going to turn into a crystal report. Most users don't do crystal reports. Most users don't want to do crystal reports. That's what they want their consultants for. But what this does is gives you the ability to kind of create a crystal report without knowing crystal reports. So that's kind of nice. So I can go out to the Business Insights reporter list, and it again is a wizard. I can set up a report and I can give it a name. I'm going to go with some sales orders. Sorry, the report name can't have all that. I'm going to call it sample SOs, and the report description can have the full sample sales orders. I can choose to add it to the menu under the custom reports menu. So you might, if you have custom reports, you may know that you have a menu under that module, and I want this one to show up under the sales order module, so I will select that there. There are some templates available, a few, landscape, portrait, or if you're doing shipping labels, there is a way to do that. So I'm going to do a landscape, which will give us more room horizontally. Here's the hard part, and this is why a lot of people don't want to do crystal reports, is where's my data coming from? So this is the view. This is a view is a predefined group of data for you to pull into your report, and sometimes that's a little more challenging to find what you're looking for. So they've tried to name these as English as possible. So I'm looking for sales orders, that would be under customer orders. And then it gives me the option, do I want to pull these out of sales order entry? Those are the data entry tables. Or am I looking for historical sales orders out of my history? I have a couple different options there, and then in addition to some other ones. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out of sales order history and click next. And the next screen now shows me all of the fields that are available in sales order entry, and then I can choose which ones I want to put on a report. I want to know my sales order number. I just select it and hit the button to take it over here. I want my order date. I want my customer number and bill to name. And let's see now. What I'd really like is, I'd like an order total. But as you, if anybody has used Crystal before or anything, you don't actually get an order total field. What you get is the taxable amount and the non-taxable amount and the sales tax amount and things like that. So basically what I want is an order total that adds all of those together. So I can create a new field and create a calculated field for that. Let's call it order total, no spaces, order total. And I can take all of those fields down I see down here that I just saw. That's where I can add them together. So at this point, then I'm going to take my Sage stores the taxable amount and the non-taxable amount. Those are the basically the items that you're adding up, whether taxable or not. If I have sales tax, I need to add that in there. If I have freight, there was a freight amount as well. Freight. And if I'm using discounts, I'm going to subtract out the discount amount. That's my total. Now, if you never use sales tax and you never use freight, you don't have to include those. But best practices, I want to put everything in there so I don't ever have to change it if my procedures change. That's my order total. Okay, let's set a width. It just warned me that's not big enough. So let's set this to about 10. Decimal places is 2. Negative, I want my negatives in a parentheses and a period for my decimal separator, and I do want a comma in my thousand. Okay. All right, so that's what I have. I can adjust any of these if I want to make them bigger or smaller right here with the width. Bill to name, I don't need the whole name. Maybe I'm going to make that smaller just so everything fits better. When I hit next, the next thing it's going to ask me is how I want my data sorted. Do I want it sorted by any of those fields there? So by date, smallest to largest, or largest to small, or most recent to later. Do I want to change pages? So for example, maybe I want to sort by customer. Let's sort by customer. Oops, what did I do? Sorry. I seem to have lost something here. There it is. Sort by customer, alphabetically ascending, and I want a separate page for each customer. Maybe I'm going to mail this to them or something like that. On when the page breaks, do I want to show the label only or the value only or both? Usually we want both. And do I want it on the footer too? No, I just need it at the top, not at the bottom. Then hit next. Do I want to group? I'm going to group everything by customer. I could add other groupings in here if wanted. I'm going to leave this as is. I'm just going to group by customer. And then finally, filters. So filters would be the criteria I want. Do I want every single order in my date history, in my history? No, maybe I just want specific date range or customers in this, or even order total, right? So I could specify a range right in here. Order date is greater than 1/1/2020. Also, you have the option, and if you don't want to do this, is to show it at runtime. So when I run the report, ask me what my date range is instead of always running it for this date range. Next again is just some basic report settings. Do I want the report settings to print on the bottom of the report? I'm going to say yes. How many copies when I run it? Do I want a 3-hole punch or print a summary report? And then next, you can chain it to another report, which basically would allow you to run them in tandem. I'm not going to do that. That's a little bit more advanced. And then the permissions. These are all the roles in my account. Who do I want to let use this? If it's okay for everybody, you can give it to them. And if not, then you set specific roles. Maybe I only want operations people to be able to run this report. When I click finish, I'm going to run the report. And now you will see it pops up a report screen, very similar to the ones that you have seen in the past on your out-of-the-box screens. So here it's called report setting. It's called samples. I could change that too. By default, it's showing all orders greater than 1/1/20, but I can change it because I said do it at a runtime. I have the options like you should be used to now to leave this window open after I preview it, and then I can hit the preview button to actually see the results that come out. So if you're looking for a simple report, I opted to show the report settings, so that's why that's printing. And then each customer is getting okay, what did I do wrong? Each customer is getting a page. You can see the page break. I know what I did wrong. I didn't put the details in. So I'm going to go modify that real quick. Here's my report setting. I'm going to hit the modify report. I know exactly what I did. I did this when I was practicing too. So I'm going to go to the screen where we're doing our grouping, and that's where my mistake was. We have to regenerate the crystal report because we're making changes. Basically, I didn't tell it what fields to put on each page, and that's here where it says details ABC. I have to replace that with actual fields. So all of these fields that are on here, I want in there. Sales order, order date, customer number, bill to name. I would like to have them, I could move them around if I want to. Let's see, customer numbers first, then bill to name, sales order. Actually, customer number is already in the heading. I'm going to take that one off. So I'm going to have the name, order, order date, and total. All right, let's try that one more time. Just get through the rest of my wizard and finish. Okay, let's try that again. Let me go ahead and preview it. There we go. So there's my customer number, one page sales order number, the date, and the order total. You can see my date here. Well, it's not the format I want. So in the report options, I did not specify what format I wanted, so it set it to a default. So that was a miss on my part. I can go back once again and edit it. And to edit a report, this Business Insights Reporter shows you all the reports you've built in Business Insights Reporter, and then you just go in and edit. So I'm not going to do that now, but basically that's what I need to do, go in and modify the format for that one field, and then it will come up correctly. So this gives you the ability to, I'm going to start the wizard again real quick, just to show you some options. Of all the data that is in here. Just want to kind of give you an idea of all the data that's in here. So under, let's see if I can make this any bigger. There we go, a little bit. You've got, this is my account. I created a user-defined tables. That's there as a user if you use user-defined tables. There's allocations, banking information, budgeting information, checks, deposits, and adjustments. So that's cash receipts. If I'm receiving and I wanted to have a report, custom report for cash receipts. Customer history, including their invoice detail, invoice history, RMA history is in here as well, and sales history. Customer information, so if I need a customer listing, maybe I want to send a list out to a mailing company for me. You can create your own customer information. Customer invoices and orders like we looked at, customer payments and returns. Some general ledger data that's available, data entry data or history data. So you can get in here also. Detail posting. Detail posting is really, you want a list of all of the posting lines that went in a certain period, for example. This can get you can get that right out of detail posting. Inventory, your inventory entry. So physical count entry. That's one that if you use physical count entry, that there's no other way right now to get a list of everything that's in your physical count entry tables while you're in the middle of an inventory count. That's a good one. Transaction entry. What have I entered in transactions? You've also got inventory history, inventory production. That's like bill of materials production history. Item pricing. That's vendor pricing. Job cost, if you use that, production entry as well, if you use production entry, and history. POs, sales tax, salesperson, and then a bunch of vendor information. So, so there are quite a few options in these views to pull data out. And if you feel comfortable with where the data is, this might be a tool that you could use to build a custom report. And the nice thing about it is, if you don't like it, you can always go in and delete it and start over, try again. I encourage my clients a lot to try reporting on their own. And if they get stuck, then give me a holler, because a lot of times they can get it 3/4 of the way done, and then I can just help with the last little push to get to the end, maybe more complicated information or setup that they would need. So that's Business Insights Reporter. And that's all we're going to do with the Business Insights Reporter. Now the final tool is actually multiple tools, calling the Business Insight Explorer. There are different Explore views, and this, similar to the data we were just looking at, are groupings of data for you to be able to create your own data queries. Now these are grouped by module, so you see them all here under the Business Insight module, you see them all. However, on every single module that you have, if you go to the module itself, it'll show you at the bottom, you've got an Explorer. It shows you all the Explore views for that particular module. So if you're looking for something in particular, you would go to that module and go to those views. So here's the inventory management module, shows the item view, item transactions, and item quantities by warehouse views. All very useful. So you have quite a few different options.
Holly, you froze on us.
And I am going to, here in your Explore views, so you have customer history. I think I will show you the, I like to do transactions, so I'm going to show you the history invoices view. Now you may wonder, what's the difference between open invoices view and history invoices view? The open invoices view specifically pulls a table that stores your open invoices. That would be anything that still has a balance or has recently been closed. They stay in that open invoices table for a little while before they're closed out of the open invoices table, depending on how many days you have it set up in your settings. And so that history invoices table, that one has all of your invoices for all time. So it would be more, not just the ones that are still open. So let's say, let's go into the open invoices table. I'm going to use that one. The open invoices view here. When you first open a view, you'll see a lot of different options at the top, and it starts to query and show data right away. There is an option to turn that off, because some of you have a lot of data, and when you open that screen, it takes a long time and you'll get the hourglass for a long time. So the first thing I'm going to show you is, if this took a long time to open, you might want to go to Tools, Options, and on the Data tab, you want to uncheck Automatically Load Data when the view setting is loaded. That way, then when I open this page, it doesn't put any data in there. When I go to use it, I will put filters in, a date range, or pick a, we're going to get into that in a second, but I'll put some criteria in, and then when I'm ready for data, and I know I have criteria that's not going to bring back 10,000 lines, I can hit the refresh button, and then it'll pull the data in. The other thing you have under Tools Options on the Data tab is you can limit the row count. So I have it set to only bring back 1,000 at a time. If I want more than that, I'm going to have to change that. So if I know that I'm going to do a date range and that date range has more than 1,000, I'm going to have to increase that, or I'm not going to get everything in my date range. And it tells you when your limit has been reached. It pops up a message. So that's something to consider as well. You can increase that, but if you increase that to 100,000 and you truly have 100,000 records, it's going to take a while for all of those to show in your screen. You want to make sure you're using those filters to only pull data that you need. Now the grid area here, it comes out of the box with certain fields showing. And it's very similar to Excel. This is why I like to call it a data query. And it's for people who are good with Excel and like Excel, you'll see a lot of things in here that you can do. You can easily sort by clicking on any column, sort ascending, then sort descending. Here's my date, etc. You can also use the filters here. So the drop down here, just like an Excel filter, allows you to filter by a specific date, or you can go to the custom tab and you can filter where dates are between. So greater than or equal to, let's go back to May of 2020, and less than or equal to today. And then I get a new row. When it refreshes, I can see down at the bottom how many rows are returned. So I've got 96 that meet this criteria. I can remove columns from this view if I don't need them. I'm not interested in certain columns. I can do that by right-clicking and going to column settings and say, meh, I don't need the discount date. We don't use that. Click OK, and then the discount date is no longer showing here. I don't need the terms code. Right-click, column settings, uncheck terms code. You see there are some other fields showing here that I could add, but that's not all the fields that you can add. And as I put a filter in, did you notice down here there's a little filter area? Here's my filter. I can change that by going here to this filter, or I can actually go to a filter builder here. The filter builder is an advanced way to build filters where you could have ands and ors, and you can mix and match those as needed. It's a little bit more advanced, but I want you to know it's there and it's possible. But one of the things that happens, I think, is people come out here and say, well, I see all these fields, but I'm missing a field that I really wanted to see, and I'd like to have on my query. So I'm going to go back to the right click. I'm going to go to my column settings, and I'm going to say I want to add a field. And when I add a field, it shows me all the tables. This is where it gets more complicated because you kind of have to know. The open invoice table is the table that stores all those fields in the invoice, but maybe I needed a field from my customer or my salesperson. So let's go in and say, I want to see my customer type. I'm just kind of curious. I want to have customer type. We use that for certain things, and I want to make sure that I want to be able to sort by customer type or group, etc. Not even sure. Here's customer type. But you see all the different options. These fields are pretty English. So price level for customers for those of you who use price level, you know what that is. Pretty much all the fields that you see on the customer screen would show up here in this list of fields, and they're pretty logical. I can change the caption at the top if I want to. I can change the format if I need to. And then when I click OK, it automatically puts it at the end over here on the top or on the right. And I can click, hold my mouse down and just drag it. I want to put it over here. And I'm going to hit my refresh button because I turned it off and it's not automatically refreshing anymore. All right, so there's my customer type. I can sort by customer type. I can see I have several different customer types in here. Let me do that one more time. Right-click custom column settings so you get used to seeing this. Another option you have is to do a calculated field. So I can see that I have an invoice amount. Wait, do I have an invoice amount? I'm sorry. Let's check and see. I've got a balance. That's how much is due. I discount sales, freight, PO. Where's my invoice total? Where's the original invoice amount? I don't see that. Am I missing it? Balance, discount, sales, freight, etc. Again, just like we did with the other one, we can do some calculations if the fields are here. We've got taxable amount plus non-taxable amount. And let's just call this taxable amount. That's basically my subtotal. That's my product total, not including the freight that you added, not including sales tax. I'm going to call it product total. I'm going to format it to a currency. Oops, I don't want to merge cells. And then click OK. So now I have that over here. And refresh. You can see my balance and my product total are the same in that case. So that's probably why it's still open. So there's some things you can do. That's your calculated field. That gives you a good idea of how to do that. All right. Now, we can also turn on summaries. So if I put on a summary footer, you can see these boxes down here, and any number field or date field, you get options. So I want to sum my product total and sum my balance. I want to show my max. We could do that. It doesn't make sense for dates right now, but when we group it, it will. So there's a couple there. We can also do some grouping. So I added this customer type, and I'd kind of like to see what the balance is by customer type for this range of orders. And I can drag this here to the gray area, and you can see then it groups, and I can collapse. There's a bunch of icons up here that tell me what I can do. Where's my collapse? You can do that to collapse them, or here we go. Right click in the gray area, collapse all the groups. Now one thing I didn't show though is those summaries aren't showing here. I'd really like to show those, always visible. And we're gonna sum those. So now I can see type A1 has $58,000 balance still. A2 has 285,000. So now I have some groupings. If I want to turn that off, I just drag it back into the grid, and now we're back in here. Now, one of the things one of the reasons people want to do a data query is because I want to push it to Excel and then do something else with it. I want to do a chart, or I want to send a list to a customer or another employee or something like that. You can easily select them, select the whole group. You can copy it and then paste it right in Excel, or you can go to File, Export, and export it to Excel, or Word, or text file, anything like that. So it's very easy to get these records out, and you can even send a page by email if you have, I think if you have the paperless office set up for that. Now, another thing is now I've created this very nice search of invoices, and I want to use it again next month. So what I want to do at this point is I want to save it. When I hit save up here, I can say invoices by month, or whatever I want to name it. Depending on your security rights, you have the ability to save it as public setting so everybody can see it, or you can save it as a private setting so only you can see it. It depends on if you have the option in your security in your role. Once I save that here, now you can see up here in the list, I still have my standard one, but I also have this new one. Anytime I make changes, if I close this, it's going to ask me if I want to save my changes. And anytime I want to, I can save, or I can do there's a save as. So maybe I like this one, but I want a little bit different. I want two views that are slightly different. I can save it. I can do the save. There's a reset. There's a save. Print. I can make it my default setting. So every time I open this, then it comes to this setting first instead of going to the standard one, which is the out of the box one. I think you have to go up here to do this save as. So if I want a copy of it, I can just do a save as. And now I have two different versions of it that I can have maybe different filters or different information on them. But I have to hit refresh because I turned off the automatic refresh. And just a note here also, this main grid is showing the data that I wanted, but as you may notice that as I click here on the line down here, information changes. And that is based on this preview. So this is kind of a preview into the invoice. I can show the items that are on the invoice, which some of these old ones don't really have. You can see this one had one item, that one had several items. Or I can change the preview at the bottom to my payments. When was this paid? Well, that one wasn't paid. Let's find one with a payment. Here we go. Nope, that's a $0 invoice. Here we go. Nope. Yeah. That's interesting. It's not showing a payment. There we go. So then it shows the payment, when the payment was received, and the payment check information. So you have different previews. So you can use this as a query tool to have open on your screen, because you can go back and forth. I leave this open, I can go back to my menu, do my daily work, come back here and look something up. And you can look up information that maybe you don't have to go and open customer information to look for it. And it can be helpful to have that, or you can use it as a query tool whenever, kind of a replacement for reports. That's how it was designed originally, was to allow users to have a way to query the data without having to get somebody to write a custom report for them. So it's got the basic data. You can pull your raw data out and do what you need to it. You do have the option also down here, other explore screens that are just links, and then tasks. In this particular one, you don't have any tasks. Right, you can use different previews, open invoice transactions, history invoice items. Those are other, you can jump to another view. I will show you when I do the item view, which I really like. Here's the item view. And you notice that this did fill the data. Each view saves its own options. So that way then, if you have one view that doesn't have that much data, sure, let it refresh every time I open it. And another one, maybe your transactions, you turn those off. What I like about this though is, as I'm looking at items, if I want to dig deeper into that item, I can right click on it and go to tasks, and I can go open enter item maintenance right from here. If I have access to it, I can open item maintenance right from here. And let's say I notice that it's under the wrong product line, I can go right in here to item maintenance and change the product line. Oops, made a mistake there. Fix that one. So you have shortcuts into those different areas. You can also go straight to under sales orders, purchase orders. All of these are available directly from this screen. So that's another feature here. So you notice here for the item view, you have a lot of different previews under here. It previews the item transactions. So all the transactions with their item types, which also has its own view. For this particular item, as I switch items, it shows me transactions for that item. So this is kind of nice. This is like going to the item maintenance screen and looking at the transactions tab, and you can see them all down there. And another thing you can do down here is right click in here, and you can drill into that preview on its own. So now when I do that, it's asking me, it's actually going to leave this explore screen and I changed something. So it'll ask me if I want to save the setting. I want to say no, because I didn't change anything permanent. Now I've drilled into that item and I'm just showing all the transactions for that particular item. You can see up here at the top, it's telling me I'm in the item transactions view now, which is really helpful because maybe I'm reconciling this item or this item, and I need to see all the transactions and try and figure out what happened. When I want to go back, I can just close that one. Oops, maybe not. There's a back button. Sorry. There's a back button you should use and not hit close. The items quantity by warehouse is nice. When you have multiple warehouses, you can see all of your on-hand values on PO, on sales order, just like you can on a maintenance screen, but you can just flip between them much faster. Line items, oh, that's if it's on sales order, it'll show you the sales order it's on. Here we go. This one has some sales orders, the sales order number, purchase order line items, if it's on purchase order, item vendors, so it tells you if there are vendors set up for that item, the last receipt date, last lead time, last price, anything that's in there. If it's on a work ticket, parent items and line items from work tickets. So the item view is very helpful as well. Just to review real quick, going back here, going to my business insights, explore views, account and account transactions are GL accounts and budgets. You've got customer view, salesperson view, those are pretty obvious. History invoices, open invoices, and repetitive invoices. And payments has its own view as well. Then the vendor views are very similar. They kind of mirror the customer view. items, item transactions, which be individual transactions. That's great for reconciling. Quantities by warehouse, where you can actually see, and this is where I've set up some views here where I need to see if I have any negative inventory. Negative inventory happens sometimes. You can go in and say if the quantity on hand is less than 0, show it on this view. Very helpful. A view of sales orders and history orders, and purchasing, lots of different purchasing ones as well. Job cost views, bill of material reviews. I do not have production management set up in here, but there are additional production management views. Well, there's open tickets, work tickets, and there are a few right here. I think there might be more. Component where used, that's BOM. So those are all the different views that are available to be under the Explorer, and I find them very helpful. So I believe that's all I have. So if we'd like to open it up for Q&A, if there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. And if I can't answer them, I can have Katie or Kristen take your name and I'll send an answer.
Yeah, please, everyone, don't be shy. We have a very quiet crowd today, but I
Yeah.
do see one question that came through, Holly. How is this different from Crystal Reports? And I think you talked about that a
Well,
little bit.
a little bit, yeah. That a lot of people just don't want to use Crystal Reports. Crystal
Mhm.
Reports is challenging because you have to know how to use Crystal Reports itself, and you have to know how to find the data and where the tables are. So the way that this is different is it's got some English named views, so you know exactly what to look for, and you don't have to go dig
Mhm.
around in your data to find the exact tables that you need, and you don't have to learn. You don't have to learn how to use the tools within Crystal and place fields certain places, anything like that. Now the business reporter that we looked at, it actually creates a Crystal report behind the scenes. So that
Mhm.
Crystal report can be edited directly in Crystal after it's created. So sometimes it's just a good starting point to create a starter, and then you can go into the Crystal and format it, put bold headings, things like that, if you know Crystal. But a lot of people who are using Sage 100 don't know Crystal and have no interest in learning it. So this is kind of an in-between. This is a way to
Mhm.
get some data out without having to learn a whole separate product. So
Yeah, that's great. You gave an amazing overview. I think Carson said someone did have their hand raised, so she will unmute you, whoever that may be.
It got dropped into the question chat here, but it's how do I switch from standard cost to last cost when issuing a PO?
yeah, well, that's a little off topic on on today's topics, but and it's kind of a loaded question. The costs actually have standard cost or last cost. The costs have a hierarchy. Once you place a PO with a vendor, it stores the last cost for that vendor, and the next time you place a PO, that should be the last cost that comes into your purchase order. The last cost you bought from a specific vendor should be what comes into your PO. It would only bring in standard cost if you hadn't ordered from that PO before. So if you're finding that it's bringing in standard cost every time, even though you've ordered from a vendor at a different cost, then there might be something else going on. Maybe there's a script from old times that's overwriting it. That would definitely have to be something to look into. Or maybe you have some old vendor pricing that's set up that you didn't realize. That happens sometimes where somebody sets up vendor pricing and another user doesn't know it's there, and that's the first thing it looks for is the vendor pricing. So we would look into the item maintenance, and for something like that, look in the item maintenance. I can show you real quick where to look. If you see this happening on an item, go up into your vendor pricing, not price lookup, pricing. And wait, no, that's not it. Sorry, vendors was right after all. Go up to vendors. That shows you all the vendors you've purchased from for this. And then on the right, this little tiny icon here is your vendor pricing. So you want to open that. Everything keeps popping up on the wrong screen. Open that, check the vendor you're ordering from, and make sure they don't have a override here. If they have something in here, for example, standard cost in here, and that's in here, that might be overriding the cost that's coming into your PO. So try looking in there.
Another question that came through, Holly, was I made a chart in Explorer but couldn't figure out how to save it in a format that I could view later.
Okay, so when you said, so you created a chart, maybe put a few things on here, right? And when you save the setting, it did not save that setting, or it didn't save the chart with it? I guess I'm just, I'm surprised because I thought it would save the chart with it. It seems to be saving mine. Or did you mean that you want to save it outside of Sage, like to export this maybe?
Yes, she said I wanted to save the chart in Word. It did save it in Sage.
Oh, I see, okay. I'd have to look into that to see, because I would think you'd have to export it, and I'm seeing there aren't exported options, export options when I'm on the chart page. So I can look into that and see, because you can print it, but that's not quite the same, right?
Thanks, Holly. I'll make sure to have Katie follow up with you both.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's it. Holly, thank you so much. That was just an amazing overview of business insights, and I'm sure it's going to give everyone a little bit to think about and kind of play with. So as you can see, Holly is an incredible resource here for us. So if you have any questions or would like her to reach out to you, please, never hesitate to call us. But thank you so much for your time today, Holly, for sharing your knowledge. As you all exit the webinar, there'll be a survey asking you what you'd like to see in the future. These sessions are for you, so please fill that out. We'd appreciate any feedback, and we will follow up to get any of your questions answered. If you have any questions and are interested in working more with Holly, one of the best practices is to reach out to me. My contact information is listed here, and you can also use the QR code. We just got that set up, which has our discounted support block pricing. So they can be used for any work, support questions, trainings, or anything like that. So thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Holly, so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Here.